It's 1943, in the middle of World War II. A destroyer escort called the USS Eldridge vanished from a Navy dock in Philadelphia. Hundreds of men saw blue-violet lights coming out of the ship's mast and hull. A low hum grew into a crackling roar, and then the Eldridge was gone. Not sunken, not moved, gone. Moments later, the sea churned, and the ship reappeared, its hull still glowing, her crew screaming. Some say they were fused to the ship itself, others vanish again, phasing in and out of existence like if they were ghosts. It all sounds unbelievable, and it should. This is the Philadelphia experiment. The Navy says that it never happened, but it did. Kinda. We know about this event because Carlos Allende wrote several letters to UFO investigator and author Maurice K. Jessup, detailing all the events he witnessed. Allende wrote that he was on the SS Andrew when he saw the USS Eldridge vanish right in front of his eyes, the ship engulfed in lights until the portal opened, revealing what he recognized as the naval station at Norfolk. As the lights faded, everything returned to normal. The Eldridge was gone for a few seconds, then it reappeared, its crew screaming, some fused to the ship hull, others phasing in and out of existence. Chaos was everywhere. Maurice ignored all the letters, which were a lot, and the Navy called because they had his book. Maurice had authored The Case for the UFO, a book that piques the Navy's interest when they mysteriously receive an anonymous copy. But that wasn't an ordinary copy. Scrawling the margins were handwritten notes, supposedly from 3 different aliens, discussing strange topics like propulsion, anti-gravity, and something known as the Philadelphia experiment, which named the USS Eldridge as the ship that could teleport, and the human science that made it possible. Each alien had its own ink, black, red, and blue, adding an eerie authenticity to the commentaries that they had sketched around the margins. The Navy called Maurice, who quickly recognized Allende's handwritings in the margins of the book. He explained how he was sending him letters, but with no proof of what he claimed. If not for Captain Samuel Tucker, the director of the Office of Naval Research, ONR, this bizarre story might have faded into obscurity, but Tucker made copies, which became known as the Vero edition. These copies circulated within the Navy, quietly fueling the legend of the Philadelphia experiment. For him it was a curiosity, a joke to share around, nothing more. The whole Allende thing affair might have quietly faded into obscurity, but fate had other plans. In 1959, Maurice died under strange circumstances. He was found lifeless in his car, the cause of death carbon monoxide poisoning. As investigators delved, they picked apart his work and research, searching for any signs of foul play. It wasn't long before the letters detailing the Philadelphia experiment surfaced, thrusting the mystery into the public eye. Conspiracy theories quickly connected the dots, claiming that Maurice had been silenced by the government. Even though his death was officially ruled as suicide, it only added to the conspiracy believers. It was the government cover-up. Surely it was the government cover-up. It didn't help that when journalists sought answers, the Navy remained quiet, until it didn't, denying the existence of the Philadelphia experiment. But the existence of the Vero edition books gave the conspiracy an unsettling air of legitimacy, and sharing the legend endured. The Navy claimed they had never conducted experiments on teleportation or invisibility, and they clarified that the U.S. Eldridge was on a shakedown mission down at the Bahamas during the dates that Allende said that the event happened, but they were lying. While it is true that the Eldridge was at the Bahamas at the time, the real lie was that they had done research in invisibility. The U.S. Eldridge was part of a highly classified project. In 1943, the success of this project was critical to naval operations against the Nazis. At the time, Nazi Germany was dominating the war at sea. In the English Channel, undetectable mines lay hidden on the seafloor, waiting for ships to pass over them to explode. These mines had long-range capabilities and couldn't be neutralized by minesweepers. They caused such a threat that naval operations in the Channel were nearly paralyzed. This led to the creation of a top-secret mission codenamed Project Rainbow, with the USS Eldridge at its core. And here's where science gets weird, at least for somebody in the 1940s. A ship's hull picks up a unique electromagnetic field as it moves through the oceans, interacting with Earth's own magnetic field. The Germans, drawing from Maxwell's unified theory of electromagnetism, they figure out how to detect this peculiar signature. This meant that naval mines no longer needed to physically touch a ship to explode. Instead, they could sense it from about 25 meters away. That's about 70 feet. Once detected, the mine would explode, creating a powerful shockwave capable of snapping a ship in two. Enter Project Rainbow. Its goal was to achieve invisibility from these magnetic sensors. Using the same actual equations, scientists discovered how to neutralize the ship's magnetic field. The process was known as degaussing. It involved wrapping thick copper cables as thick as a human arm around the ship. And then, these cables were connected to powerful generators on shore, which pulls electricity through them to neutralize the ship's magnetic field, creating a new signature, blending it with Earth's own. The USS Eldridge was a newly launched escort vessel in 1943, carrying a mobile version of this system called coiling. Instead of relying on shore-based generators, the ship carried its own generators, capable of handling the immense power needed. Wrapping copper wires, the Eldridge was a new breed of ship, one that could slip past magnetic mines undetected, and could reset its magnetic field anywhere on the world. Now, as strong as they could be, these generators were weaker than the ones on shore, so the process had to be carried out every other day. But there was an unexpected side effect. The enormous electrical currents running through the ship's hull ionized the air around it, creating a glowing plasma, similar to the northern lights mixed up with a Tesla coil kind of thing. When the degaussing system was on, the ship glowed. Ghostly flickering lights could be seen glowing with shades of blue, green, and purple. Sailors called them St. Elmo's lights. Project Rainbow didn't stop there. The Navy wanted to reduce the ship's radar signature. They experimented with electromagnetic pulses to desynchronize the radar signals. Sailors often heard phrases like, "The ship's undergoing magnetic invisibility treatment," or "activate the generators for radar invisibility." These were common topics of conversations in bars where Allende was known to drink. But Project Rainbow pushed even further. To counter the threat of enemy submarines' periscopes, the Navy sought true optical invisibility, and by 1943, they were actively trying to achieve it. In collaboration with Canadians, they developed diffuse lighting camouflage, a type of active camouflage that used projections to help the ships blend with the horizon, reducing their visibility to up to 70%, which led to Project Yehuda that worked from the 1940s until the 1960s, and by the late 1950s, the focus was just not camouflage, but achieving invisibility. They had successfully experimented with ionized plasma, the lights coming from the hull of the Eldridge, to bend infrared light, making engine exhaust systems virtually invisible to heat detection. And now comes the beauty of the human mind. The Philadelphia experiment holds whispers of truth beneath its shrouds of mystery. Sailors perhaps talked about things that they didn't understand, misrepresenting the capabilities of certain real technologies, especially at bars. Just imagine standing on the deck of the USS Eldridge as it hums with power of intense magnetic fields. Feels potent enough to destroy the human mind. Sailors might have screamed not of physical pain, but of headaches. Some may have had hallucinations, others just wanted all to end. And in reality, the ship itself attained invisibility, not to the naked eye, but from mind sensors and maybe radar? Yes, sure. And the phenomena behind this feat was rooted itself in the mysteries of real science, and for sailors, something called the unified theory of electromagnetism was the magic keeping them alive as they gripped with absolute terror every second the Eldridge slipped through marine mines. The only thing keeping them alive, this invisible field that some guy called Maxwell predicted. Picture the ethereal glow of St. Elmo's lights dancing across the ship's surface, born from powerful degaussing operations. As you dance with death itself, lights flickering like spectral flames while waiting on an explosion that never comes. And as the stress kills your soul, you reckon the field worked and you're alive. At least one more day. Imagine the tales that would be told about the Eldridge in bars by drunken sailors. Tales of diffuse lighting technology capable of cloaking ships, drifting from loose tongues fueled by rum. And all was true. See, the term Philadelphia experiment was never officially designated by the Navy. It was birthed from Allende's letters. Even if teleportation had been dabbled with, it likely was under a different name. Thus, when the Navy dismissed the Philadelphia experiment as not existent, they were not lying. They were just executing flawless, plausible deniability. Yet, Project Rainbow was real. A covert endeavor dealing into invisibility technologies, striving to render naval vessels undetected by praying eyes, be they from mines or radar or periscopes. In the end, the line between reality and fiction blurs, leaving us to wonder, just like Allende wondered in his letters, could it all be real? So here's my version of the Philadelphia experiment, how things really went down. So picture this: Carlos Allende, a hard-drinking sailor with a knack for overhearing things that probably he shouldn't, is sitting in some dimly bar nursing his drink, eavesdropping on hushed conversations about a brand new ship called the USS Eldridge. The words catch his attention: invisibility, electromagnetic fields, light distortion, stealth technology, desynchronizing field pulses, and they are talking about making a whole ship invisible from magnetic sensors and even sight, with some kind of light projection system. And Allende starts imagining, how could this be all real? Then one cold night in 1943, Carlos Allende stumbles onto the docks in Philadelphia, and there is when he sees it, the Eldridge, glowing with an eerie bluish-green light like wrapped in a ghostly flame, the plasma flickering at the distance like a star, alive, pulsating, phasing in and out of reality. Carlos squints his eyes, alcohol flowing through his veins, and he mutters, "Well, I'll be damned. The ship exists, and it can actually be invisible." To him, it's like watching magic unfold, something otherworldly, something you tell in stories at bars when you're drinking, having maybe one or 10 drinks in his case. Now stir that scene with a dash of imagination, a whole lot of alcohol, and a pinch of paranoia, and what do you get? A story that sounds an awful like the Philadelphia experiment. The kicker, the technology was real, and after the war, around the 1950s, those lights Carlos ranted about, the plasma lights, they were being repurposed for projects like the U-2 and the SR-71 Blackbird. The goal, to make their exhaust systems invisible to infrared detection. And the US was a master of deception, especially around 1958, within the Cold War. Crazy projects came to be, like MK Ultra, psychic spying, remote viewing, remote killing. Some of it was real. Some of it was smokes and mirrors designed to mess with the Soviet heads, make them waste money and time. So while the Soviets obsessed about teleportation, they just didn't care about radar invisibility. The Philadelphia experiment had become the perfect cover story, like they say in Hollywood, based on true events. And the USS Eldridge sailed into that kind of immortality that only legends can buy. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, it really helps the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.
The Fuku Files!